pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tom Hooper.
Present.
Jack Ketting.
Here.
Sabrina Ford. Here. Lawrence Myers.
Here.
Jean Brown.
Here.
And Richard Grimminger. We have a quorum.
Okay. Please check the agenda to make sure there's no additions, corrections that need to be put on today's agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second, Bob.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And those who were here at the last meeting, there is the approval of the meetings, the minutes of the last meeting. Financial reports is coming out. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Need a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are passed. The financial report, we have one of those, the two-page report is just kind of the current layout, giving us the last several months' expenditures, and then on the second page is our current balance as of 7/31. And we do have another page that's the lodging receipts by month, and those are all up to date currently. And we do have there. You notice that there was some being in May of 16 through June of 2017. There were some adjustments later on made in July of this year to correct those balances back to not necessarily posted by month, but the totals were adjusted. Does anyone see a need that those be prorated out by month so that we can see if there's any change of flow that we need to be aware of for 1 month over and over of tourism? I think we actually might want to consider doing that so that we can kind of see how things lay out on a
monthly. Make a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
Sandra, could you extrapolate those?
Yes.
And you have the data to do that.
So we would be prorating the
We would just
large...
taking that large deposit and putting it back in the months as
When it was
they were
earned.
collected, yeah, as they were earned.
As they were earned, not
Yes.
collected. Got it, okay.
And there's also one other piece of financial report, which is the 2018 budget, the Tourism Commission fund there. And that way we'll see this flow in the next report. It'll be prorated out, and we can kind of look to see if there's some months that are really strong and some months that are really
Yeah,
weak, that we
yeah.
might want to
Yeah, it's a little hard to
consider seasonal
make sense out of it.
advertising and things to do. That would give it a real good picture being lumped like that. And on our budget sheet, you can see that the actual adopted budget for 2017 and then the actual budget, you can see some and of course, these budgets, they're truly that in this particular situation because our revenue is constantly in flux, depending on, weather, flooding, big events, little events. And you look at the expenditures, a lot of our expenditures in the last several years have been primarily in marketing, which is one of the main things that we do with this group, is to do that. There are other things that you see that we postage, publishing, marketing events, trade shows, and special services that we could choose to spend some of our funds if it fits within the parameters of this organization. Any questions or addition? Anybody needs more information about the financials?
Is our fiscal year October through October?
No, it's June, well, July.
No, it is October 1 to September 30th.
October 1 to September 30th.
However.
But the budgets are approved in July.
Oh.
Well, and
Okay.
this Tourism Tax Commission is a little unique in that at the end of a fiscal year, those balances roll forward, which is different than most municipal budgets or sections of the budget, because let's say you had $5,000 left in the fund at the end of the year, it rolls forward to the next year because it's tax collections review. So even though it is an October 1 to September 30th, it doesn't mean that it's not like a sweep account at the end of the year.
Right. And for our budget to be approved by the city council, it has to hit them when they're doing their budgets in July.
Oh.
So
This will actually be reviewed at an August Board of Aldermen meeting. We have to submit the draft.
Draft in July and approval in August, so yeah.
Do you want to, I don't know if it's necessary, but do you want a motion to approve the draft?
We need to approve the financial report.
Oh, because this is under new business, actually.
Yeah.
So I'll move for approval of the financial report.
Second.
Moved to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Old business. We're going to review expenditures to start with, which is...
So we have, at the last meeting, you approved 2 months of search engine marketing and rec card distribution. And so that carries us forward. I would suggest maybe approving 1 more month of each of those at your meeting today, which would be 220 on rec card distribution and 300 on search engine marketing for a total of 520. And that would...
That way, if there is no other additional monies needed, we may, or expenditures we may not have to meet in the month of August.
Okay.
Because right now we're kind of in one of those periods where we could do that.
Okay.
We'd like to move that we approve the next month of those 2 items.
So moved.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And now we can just, the draft budget here is, we can look at that.
That is what, 520, is that what?
Yeah, 520. And so our proposed budget is for $22,000 in expenditures primarily in marketing at this point in time. But that is just a budget, and because of the nature of this organization, we have funds available in our emergency fund and carryover fund that as we see fit, we can spend that money differently, or because we vote on each item as it comes up. And so if other organizations propose things, new opportunities to fund something come up, we have the opportunity to present the funds to someone if they apply. But currently we're calling for a tentative budget expenditure of $22,000. And as you can see from, that our average, if you look on the lodging receipts, we're averaging between 23, 21, 22,000. So that's right near our income. That's on that sheet.
That's a good point.
And we do have a carryover fund to help us out in case we find something that is really appropriate for us to spend money on, that we can go in there. And our carryover funds has been fairly stable. We dipped into that a little bit to create the RAT card program, which will continue to do because it seems to be helping do its share. And currently, we probably should have a motion to approve this. We submit this budget to the City Council.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So, and if you could put that with the rest of the tourism.
Will do.
Thing. Okay. Other new projects, and Sandra's provided this. We had a visioning meeting, and it was condensed down into a number of different things, and these are that question here?
Just extra copies.
Extra copies.
Yeah, but the top ranked ones are down there as
Yeah,
well.
the top ranked ones are there's a group of things, and I don't know if you, go ahead. Pass these. And this is what the visioning group came up with. And some of these things fit within this. A number of them were infrastructure related, such as poor cell phone service, by multiple providers, especially in the down on Main Street. It's a very, very poor area. But there are some other, great opportunities here. Some things that we can get involved with.
I'd like to point out that the number one item that was ranked there was hospitality training. It came up across the board with many different people, and we had an opportunity recently through the city, through the Delta Regional Authority, to apply for a placemaking grant, and one of the things that you could apply for was more like soft skills, emphasizing your culture and unique features of the area. And since that was the number one item that seemed to be across the board with everyone, we are in the process of submitting a grant to the Delta Regional Authority for that purpose, for hospitality training, like develop a curriculum that would be based on St. Genevieve, so it would talk about the historic homes, and it would be something that new employers could use with their staff, and it would also be something that business owners or anyone could listen to and take part in, and even students that might be in high school and might be thinking about it for summer jobs.
Even having hard copies that kind of have the synopsis of that in businesses. So if somebody asks you a question, you refer to the Bible real quickly.
Right, yeah. That's a good idea.
And get them some kind of an answer. And especially out in training, places that, some restaurants and things that are, especially national brands that have a really high turnover, but oftentimes they're the first face somebody sees when they come into St. Genevieve. Mm-hmm. So it's trying to make sure that some of those places have that information so that, you know, the last thing you want to hear when you go into a community looking for something, you go, well, I don't know. So we don't want to have
Never heard of the
that.
historic district.
Yeah.
I think you go over the bridge. So we want to, you know, and that's something that people came up with often. And a lot.
And we don't know if we have really, you know, how that is with the grant process. We may or may not have a shot, but we'll at least, you know, put our request out there and see.
Yeah, and we're probably the northernmost area on that Delta region. And Sandra, I remember you were working on getting us into that district, because we were kind of on that, well, we don't know if we want Missouri to be in that or not, and we were able to get us in there. And this is one of the first communications we've had with them on this type of a grant. And it's a large grant, it's a matching funds grant, but they have a large amount of money available, and to, you know, provide to almost any community who fits the criteria, and we definitely fit that criteria.
So we'll see what happens. I just wanted to kind of point out, and you know, once you've got the grant application written, let's say it doesn't get chosen for this one, we could submit it to some other kind of grant.
Well, and you may be able to plug and play it into another grant, and sometimes it's good to have 3 or 4 backups of
Right.
grants that, you know, that if the piece of paper fits the grant, and kind of put it in that envelope.
Each having it in there.
And these are also things that you can look at as things that people within the community requested that would be high on their priorities of the things that could be done. And some of them are not necessarily tourism oriented, but also I think it was a good thing for the city council as a whole to see the things that the city, a group of people came together and expressed by, you know, everybody got a different, we expressed information, put it on the wall, people came by and put stickers, and the things that had the most stickers were the things that made this list. We originally wanted to do it more for tourism, find out ways that we could advertise for tourism, but it seemed that a lot of people were interested in improving the quality of life here in the community, as well as the tourist experience.
Kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah. So, and if any of you see any of these things on there that you can find a way that this commission could help financially to put some of these in place, as long as it fits within our parameters, it would be, you know, it'd be something that we could definitely discuss.
Well, you know, I've visited my daughter in Vienna, Austria, twice now, Christmas time. And we always go to the Christkindl markets.
Yeah.
And I always think that it would really be really nice to have a little more open air markets during the Christmas walk.
I participated as a vendor in the markets at Herman, at both Stonehill Winery and at Hermanhof Winery. And my wife and I are going over and doing the Nuremberg to Vienna Christmas markets. I'm going to be taking a camera and taking a lot of pictures to find some ways that we can maybe put that into motion.
Yeah.
And we already have a lot of Christmas activities. If we could just add those as layers,
Right.
Give people more of a reason to come here.
And
Yeah,
maybe
like a
not just
little-
that weekend, maybe other weekends in December.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Like
Right.
November,
Yeah.
extend the season.
Yeah.
Right, and sometimes maybe doing it in a small area where you have a facility, something that we can either get a big tent that we can, and put it outside and have it occupied by vendors, during specific days on the weekend, specific hours, and add in the caroling and the other things that we already do, and kind of build around that. We also have the wonderful DeBerg Center that if we get enough interest of maybe, having some vendors in there, that way you're a little more weatherproof, and it makes it a little more friendly for people that are traveling. Because it's an opportunity to have something more going on here and to fill more bed and breakfast and hotel rooms during that time of year. And which also leaves more meals in the restaurants, which feeds on itself.
Money turns over.
Yeah. And that's one that we can, that fits more with this, commission than a number of the other things.
Right,
do.
yeah. Well, I think we've talked about this before, but the numbers on the houses to match the,
Yeah. And I'm not quite sure how that fits with us, and that's, we have a kind of a real specific purpose, right? And one of the things I want to do is I want to get a copy of the bylaws and review that, because we have a responsibility to spend the money towards improving tourism.
Right, yeah.
That doesn't improve the experience once they get here.
Right, yeah.
But is our money best,
Right.
is supposed to be spent getting them
people here, yeah, yeah.
So I want to review that a little bit before we do that. But with the wayfaring signs, and that process is coming into, coming along. Once that gets up, I think that will actually maybe be the catalyst that can help them get that next step started. And we can maybe do that, not necessarily in this commission, but through some of the other things going on in town. Anyone have any other suggestions for new projects? Or existing activities or events that we could, expand upon and do new things with?
Might be an opportunity to kind of look at the list and think about it and see if something, comes to mind.
Yeah, and this is a nice time of year because we're kind of slow until Christmas time here. We don't have a lot of fall festival type things here because of Jour de Fête, where it falls. A lot of other communities do a fall festival. We have more of the historic events coming up. And it's looking at those to see if we can partner with them possibly in helping with some advertising to improve those. And also, I think for next year, I think French festivals is something that we can actually maybe help with and expand that. I had a lot of people this weekend wanting to know more where the historic crafts were here from Jour de Fête. And I think we have maybe an opportunity to do some advertising and help bring them into French Festival and turn that into the historic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a neat idea.
Yeah, I like that.
And possibly bring in some lecturers and some teaching and some education along with that. I know several people that do workshops. One of them, she teaches at the Bayou Tapestry. She teaches classes in the French style of embroidery and ribbon embroidery. And she's actually willing to come down and teach. She does everything from 2-hour lectures to full 2 or 3 day workshops.
That's a really good idea because I've been talking to different people, and like whenever, we have these certain things going on at certain times of the year, but it seems to be that it's mostly like the same things going on, and we need to give them a new flair and bring new things into it to get people back in here because they're thinking, well, I've been there once, and they don't want to go all the time. So
also that's an opportunity because I was at the Fort de Chard for their event, and they had a number of different musical groups, and a lot of them did a lot of discussion of French history and French music from this area, and expanding on that during French Festival might be another layer,
right?
To bring people for the history, the education. And by that time, when that comes around next year, we should have 2 new museums open and running, and that's what a great expansion at all at the same time.
Right.
Now, you are aware that the Lions Club is putting on our World Heritage Day again this year?
Yes.
And that is the end of October.
And that's one of the things that if there's a possibility that we could help with some advertising and some ideas with that, I'd love to see a proposal.
Okay, well,
That's a great event.
It is a great event.
speak to Jack about that.
We have lots of people come in.
Jack did.
Come in to see that. A lot of people are shocked for that. So
Yeah, and we went through the same thing too. We decided that after, this will be our, I think it'll be our 8th year. And we thought we were doing the same thing. We had the same. So last year we expanded it and we had one event in the afternoon. It was, I forgot what it was called. It's a national thing though, but they were shooting, it was like cowboys on horses. And they did
Oh.
part of it down in the big field. and then-
Mounted marksmanship or something.
Yeah, I don't know but they did one of it on the grounds, up, and then we did one down on Little St. Mary's Road. I couldn't get down there, but it was, people really liked it. But yeah, we knew we had to do, the things were starting, it was really neat, but, they were seeing the same thing all the
Yeah,
time.
everything gets
And- and
repetitious.
we
Yeah.
can work with advertising for some of those events like that, and that kind of fits right where we're going. And expanding the things that are working really well and that bring in some new people.
We had a speaker a couple years ago that gave the history of croquet, and he had it down on the Hoffman property. And it was well attended, the people that were interested in it.
Sure, yeah.
He came in from Minnesota, I think.
Yeah, and it's finding some things like that can be sponsored, and maybe if you have an advertising budget that we could help with, might free up some of your funds for stipends for people like that, because we probably would do the advertising to bring the people in. So those partnerships are things. I don't know if this commission has done much in the past, but I think there's things that we need to investigate that I think we can strengthen the good events that we have here in town. Jour de Fête is a great big thing, but it has, and all the community event groups are involved in it, and it kind of it feeds on itself, and so we need to take some of these smaller events that have a lot of potential, that fit a completely different need than Jour de Fête, that we can expand upon.
Yeah. And the foundation has their spirit reunion that same night as well, and then so those two events seem to work real well together.
They do.
Well, good. So please bring ideas and budgets and suggestions for those, and so when we have our next meeting, we can maybe expand on some of those.
See what I can come up with.
Maybe we should all go to Austria and do research.
We have a budget.
That was a surprise for me. Is there any other new business or other business that we should discuss? In that case, I'll entertain it. A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn. Thank you so much.
We are still collecting.